Thank you. Okay, yes, I think I need to warn you that I'm probably the anomaly of this conference. As some of you know, I'm not a scientist and my background is in business. So this is going to be a little break from healing and all that, but perhaps we can, at the end of this presentation, we can see a parallel with trying to heal our society in general. The purpose of my presentation is to demonstrate the applications and perhaps more specifically the implications of scientific concepts into a mainstream business application, okay? What is the objective of the application? Again, my background is in business and I have been focusing my research on how executives in the business world can make better decisions. And at the same time, because I have been using intuitive intelligence, the process of developing intuition actually stipulates a personal self-assessment, and therefore it leads into some sort of transformational process which increases the consciousness in the individual. So it's a good formula because you can't go to an executive and say, you know, would you be interested in me training you how to have a higher consciousness, because that's not billable time. There's no client, you know, who's interested in paying for that. So you go up to the executive and say, would you like to know how to make better decisions, to be able to better forecast the future and make more effective decisions? So that they're interested in. What they don't realize is the process is a transformational process, and it does, at the end of the day, change the individual and increases their consciousness. So what we're going to look at today in my presentation is how I derived my methodology of intuitive intelligence. I do not teach, I don't feel you can teach intuition. You can elicit intuition. We're all born with some basic intuitive gifts or skills or whatever, but we're not all Mozarts and we're not all Van Goghs or whatever. So the trick is that to elicit every individual's gestalts for intuitive insights. I've changed my presentation a few times, so I have to look at my notes. What we're going to look at today is intuition as an integral function of the body in the spirit, okay, which is based on scientific concepts. We're going to look at the human body as an emitter and as a receptor of information. We can emit energy, we can emit, in that energy stream is information, and in that category comes in remote healing, remote influencing. Okay, we are receptor of these signals too. So this is what we're going to look at. How do we use our body, our tool? Okay, it's like hardware and software. We have a tool, we need to know how to use it. Where's the manual? We don't have a very good manual. So the slide presentation, if you can just remember, I'm going to show the highlights of the categories of the scientific concepts that have helped me develop my methodology. And during the presentation, I'm going to go very quickly, but if you can focus not on the details of the knowledge topics that I'm presenting, but on three things. On the whole integration of the topics of my presentation and their implication in terms of being interconnected. Interconnected between, you know, different human beings, between personally us and the cosmos, and any other interconnections that you can see. The second point to focus on is, again, the human body as a tool, as an emitter and receptor. And the third thing to focus on is that knowledge in itself is very important in this methodology. Knowledge will help you open your mind. Okay, so here we go. Okay. Why did I decide to develop this methodology? Well, if you look at the reality of today, there's continuous chaos, there's crises, we're experiencing a collapse of the socioeconomic models. There's a lack of values, egos, greed, short-term vision, blame, etc. New leadership is needed, but it's not another model of leadership that's needed. It's more in depth than that. We need to stop repeating. We need to stop repackaging the old models. Now again, I come from a background of business school, and we're taught to think with creativity, and we're asked to repackage the old models. For example, the business models, the GE model. I say, okay, come up with your own model. Well, what happens, the GE model has 4 squares. So what happens if you come up with a concept or a paradigm that has maybe 5 different ideas or 6, then it's like, well, how rude of you to even think of that. So in business school, we're given all these models, historical models, and we're asked to more or less repackage them. So of course, they keep rehiring consultants because we repeat history, and the same problems evolve because we're not going to the root of the problem. We're treating the symptoms. So how do we get out of that? We need true innovation and creativity. We need higher intelligence and higher consciousness. So we need to change how we use our instrument here. Okay, so we need to open our mind to the impossible. Okay, part of the training is to deconstruct your models. Look at your assumptions, be aware of them. And then to follow Prigozhin's dissipative structures, you take there's always some good parts. So you look at all the parts that you've deconstructed from your paradigm, and you take the good parts, and you pull them all together again, but you build it into an open system type of paradigm. You don't go back to the same closed system. Okay, so again, the most powerful tool we have to change the way we think is our brain. Okay, on the past, we focus on the rational side, on the left brain side. We need to look at all of these skills that we can't explain scientifically, such as the intuitive skills, the natural instincts, the presentiments, and all the other cognitive functions that involve the conscious, the subconscious, and the conscious. And it's not to say one is more important to the other. Another leitmotif through this presentation is that you need full integration and you need a balance of everything. Every little part has an important role to play. So the other thing is intuitive intelligence is like a portal to cosmic communication system, okay? We learn how to access non-local information via the hologram system, and I'll get into that a little later. The first part of the methodology is to change your mindset, okay? And we do that through visualization. We have to recreate the map of reality, okay? Some people say you create your own reality. I say that you create your own perception of what exists, okay? And the most powerful way to visualize is to feed your image with knowledge. The more knowledge you have, the more intelligent vision you have. So, and knowledge also opens the brain to new horizons and perspectives. And very importantly, you have to revisit your assumptions and check them out, okay? The Earth used to be flat. That was a certainty. Well, it's not anymore. What happened? Now, it's not enough to have a vision, to have a picture. You need the flow, you need a vehicle, you need some action. So how do you create that? You create that with the intent, okay? The intent is the fuel of making things happen. And the more knowledge you have, the more precise the intent, the more focus you have. And the other important thing in that is the spontaneity, and also it comes right down to passion. You really want to have this thing happen, okay? So the other thing to remember is that we have been raised in a culture that is separation versus integration, okay? The traditional process of analysis is one of fragmentation, and segmentation, which is okay. It's good to analyze and it's good to break down, but then we just leave it there and we don't,